Every university has that one defining quality to hang its hat on, whether it's a high academic standard, a legendary party scene, or maybe even a breathtaking campus. But there's no quality that fills alumni and fans with more pride than being able to claim legendary athletes as one of their own. Sure, maybe your boss's boss's boss might have gone to Yale, but if Michael Jordan or Michael Vick went to your school, then who's really winning the game of life here? Now, having one iconic athlete to represent your school is incredible, but having a lineup that's so stacked that it's hard to even narrow down, that's next level. So today I bring to you a fundamental question. Which school can claim the greatest collection of athletic talent in the history of collegiate sports? In an attempt to answer this question, here are the ground rules that I've established. So, my first rule I've called the Mount Rushmore rule. So, similar to how Mount Rushmore, of course, has four presidents, we're sticking to a limit of four athletes to represent each school in these rankings. Secondly, for each school, I've imposed a limit of two athletes per sports program. Much like Mount Rushmore represents presidents from three different centuries, I want to celebrate schools that emphasize variety with their athletic greatness. And lastly, athletes will be evaluated on the entirety of their careers, not just their time in college. So, Michigan fans, you can relax. Tom Brady's pro career was taken into consideration for this exercise, not just his time at Michigan, where we all know he was pretty average. So, without further ado, let's jump into the top 10. At number 10, we have the Texas Longhorns, known for their football tradition, but one could argue overlooked with what they've brought to the table in sports like basketball and baseball. We'll start with the legendary Longhorns baseball program, winners of 6 national championships, and more importantly, the former stomping grounds for Roger Clemens. Steroid controversies have tainted his legacy and prevented what would have been a surefire Hall of Fame bid, but there's no denying he's one of the most accomplished pitchers of all time, winning a preposterous 7 Cy Young Awards with 4 different teams and 2 World Series titles with the Yankees in 1999 and 2000. He also has the rare distinction of winning the MVP as a pitcher on the 1986 Red Sox. Switching gears to the basketball court, where the Longhorns have found consistent success since the 1990s, peaking in 2003 with a Final Four appearance. But their crown jewel, Kevin Durant, would arrive in 2007 and quickly establish himself as the greatest in school history. That's what happens when you win the National Player of the Year award unanimously as a true freshman. While Durant's Texas team failed to make a deep NCAA tournament run, he found championship success in the NBA, winning 2 titles and 2 finals MVPs with the Golden State Warriors. Whether his recent run as an NBA mercenary has endeared himself to you or not, he's earned the reputation as one of the 20 greatest NBA players of all time. Someone who all but guaranteed championship contention for any team he played on throughout his prime. Of course, you can't talk about Texas athletes without representation on the gridiron, and who better to represent Longhorns football than their 2 Heisman-winning running backs, Earl Campbell and Ricky Williams. After winning the Heisman Trophy in his senior season in 1977, Campbell transitioned seamlessly to the pros, winning the NFL Offensive Player of the Year award in 1978 and the MVP the next year in '79. His career was cut short, playing in just 8 seasons before retiring, but it speaks volumes to his greatness that he was still inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Following in Campbell's footsteps nearly 2 decades later, Ricky Williams also won the Heisman Trophy in his senior season and left Texas as the NCAA's all-time leading rusher. Ricky's NFL career mixed flashes of brilliance with off-the-field controversy. At his peak in 2002, he led the NFL in rushing and earned first-team All-Pro honors, but his prime was interrupted by multiple suspensions for marijuana use and even a stint in the Canadian Football League. And yet, even with these challenges, he still finished his pro career with over 10,000 rushing yards, a testament to his immense talent. In the 9th spot, we have the Kansas Jayhawks, synonymous with the historic men's basketball program. So naturally, it's no surprise that two basketball legends headline the representatives on this list. Wilt Chamberlain's inclusion is a no brainer. He's one of the 5 to 10 greatest basketball players of all time, and after starring for the Jayhawks and nearly winning a national title, Wilt shattered the statistical sound barrier in the NBA. His 100-point game renders like a folk tale to this day, and he finished his NBA career with averages, yes, averages, of 30 points and 23 rebounds a game. The second basketball spot was a toss up between Paul Pierce and Joel Embiid. While Embiid's 2023 MVP season represents a higher individual peak, Pierce's overall career, both in college and professionally, gets the slight nod here. Pierce cemented his legacy as one of the great playoff performers of his generation, culminating in a 2008 championship win with the Celtics and a Finals MVP. If Embiid can ever break through the second round of the playoffs, I'm happy to revisit this debate, but for now, the truth holds the spot. What really surprised me about Kansas athletics was the fact that the Jayhawks have produced not one, but two Hall of Fame running backs. First came Gale Sayers, who dominated in his 3 seasons at Kansas in the 1960s, twice earning first-team All-American honors. Sayers would continue his dominance as a Chicago Bear, and his legacy was further immortalized by his friendship with Brian Piccolo, inspiring the classic movie Brian's Song, which has emotionally devastated middle and high schoolers around the country for generations ever since. Then there's John Riggins, who followed in Sayers' footsteps a few years later. Riggins led Kansas to one of its best seasons in 1968, capped by a top 10 ranking and a narrow Orange Bowl loss to Penn State. In the NFL, Riggins etched his place in history with an MVP-winning performance in Super Bowl XVII in 1983, leading Washington to their first Super Bowl title. Coming in at number 8, we have the California Golden Bears. While often overshadowed by their West Coast contemporaries, Cal has a rich history of producing great athletes across multiple sports. Let's start with the man you're most likely to associate with Cal sports, Super Bowl champion and 4-time NFL MVP, Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers' outsized success with the Green Bay Packers has perhaps overshadowed his time at Berkeley, where he led Cal's football team to a 10-1 regular season and a top 5 ranking before losing the Holiday Bowl to Texas Tech. Rodgers isn't the only NFL legend from Cal. Tony Gonzalez, one of the greatest tight ends of all time, played both football and basketball for the Golden Bears. Gonzalez earned first-team All-American honors his junior year before jumping to the NFL, where he would go on to rewrite the history books for his position. As a basketball player, Gonzalez nearly shared the court with another Cal icon, Jason Kidd. Kidd, a San Francisco native, stayed close to home and led a revival of Cal's basketball program. In 1993, he guided the team to its first Sweet 16 appearance in over 3 decades. In the NBA, Kidd established himself as an all-time great point guard, equally deadly as a distributor, leading the league in assists 5 times, and a defender, where he earned a selection to 9 all-defensive teams. Rounding out Cal's athletes is American women's soccer hero Alex Morgan. Before winning an Olympic gold medal and 2 World Cups with the U.S. women's national team, Morgan starred for 4 years at Cal, leading the team to the NCAA tournament in every season. She recently announced her retirement from soccer and finished her career with the 8th most international goals in women's soccer history. At number 7 are the Tennessee Volunteers, earning their spot through the strength of their 2 flagship programs, football and women's basketball. In football, Tennessee boasts an unmatched duo in Peyton Manning and Reggie White. Simply put, Peyton Manning is the face of Tennessee sports. Whenever the Vols are on a big stage, you'll find the camera flashing to Manning in the crowd, proudly decked out in orange. And why not? He's the school's all-time leader in passing yards and touchdowns and won 5 MVPs and 2 Super Bowls in the NFL. On the other side of the ball, we have the late, great Reggie White. Known as the Minister of Defense, White still holds the Tennessee single-season record for sacks and is widely regarded as one of the greatest defensive players in NFL history. During his career with the Eagles and Packers, White earned 13 All Pro selections, won 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, and captured an elusive Super Bowl title in 1997. For all of Tennessee's pedigree on the football field, it's hard to top the dominance of the Lady Vols basketball team, winners of 8 national championships. And representing their dynasty are Tamika Catchings and Candace Parker, 2 of the greatest women's basketball players of all time. Of all the great Tennessee women's basketball teams over the years, Tamika Catchings was part of the greatest ever, the undefeated 1998 squad that rolled to the national title. In the WNBA, Catchings completed the sport of basketball, winning the league MVP in 2011, the Defensive Player of the Year award 5 times, and leading the Indiana Fever to their first and only championship in 2012, where she, of course, won the finals MVP as well. Fast forwarding to the mid 2000s, Candace Parker also staked her claim as the school's greatest basketball player, leading the Lady Vols to back-to-back titles in 2007 and 2008. Parker also had an illustrious WNBA career, winning 3 titles, 2 MVPs, and adding both a Defensive Player of the Year and Finals MVP to her resume. At number 6 are the USC Trojans. Most known for their football dominance, where they've won 11 national championships, USC also brings a history of success across all sports, claiming over 100 team national titles and a diverse set of elite athletes. USC's baseball program has won 12 national titles, producing legends like Mark McGwire, Tom Seaver, and newly certified school representative Randy Johnson. Johnson didn't shine immediately in college, but flashed enough potential to be drafted in the second round by the Montreal Expos. And once he put it all together, he became one of the most intimidating pitchers in MLB history, winning 5 Cy Young Awards, an MVP, and a World Series title with the Diamondbacks in 2001. He was elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 2015. On the hardwood, the women of Troy brought home back-to-back NCAA titles in 1983 and 1984 behind the great Cheryl Miller. But it's Lisa Leslie who became the school's most decorated basketball player a decade later. Growing up in the 1990s, Lisa Leslie is one of the first mainstream women's basketball players that I can remember, memorialized in pop culture as a playable character in the Backyard Basketball series. And after winning National Player of the Year honors in 1994 for USC, she went on to win 2 WNBA championships with the LA Sparks and 3 MVP awards. Moving on to football, the school's crown jewel. With a pipeline that includes 14 Pro Football Hall of Famers, it was difficult to narrow down the list to just 2 players, and I hate to do it, but the first spot must go to O.J. Simpson, whose infamous post-playing career has since dwarfed what was an incredible football legacy. O.J. is the school's greatest running back, setting the standards for legends like Marcus Allen and Reggie Bush that followed in his footsteps. Allen is the most difficult snub here, but O.J. had the greater NFL peak, earning 5 consecutive first-team All-Pro selections and winning the 1973 MVP with the Buffalo Bills. Balancing out the offense is superstar defensive back Ronnie Lott. Lott's resume is one of the most decorated in football history. He helped USC win the 1978 national title and went on to earn first-team All-Pro honors 8 times, claiming 4 Super Bowl rings with the 49ers in the process. To kick off the top 5, we have the Arizona State Sun Devils. Arizona State may lack recent high-profile championship success to boast about, but they more than make up for it with a deep lineup of historic athletes, so much so that even an all-time basketball player like James Harden fails to crack their rotation. We'll start with football, where Terrell Suggs, aka T-Sizzle, made a name for himself at Arizona State with his legendary 24-sack season in 2002. His dominance carried right over to the NFL, where he became a 7-time Pro Bowler, won the 2011 Defensive Player of the Year award, and collected 2 Super Bowl rings with the Baltimore Ravens and Kansas City Chiefs. Finally, I show some love to the golf course today, as the Sun Devils can proudly claim Phil Lefty Mickelson as one of their own. Mickelson was unstoppable at Arizona State, winning 3 individual NCAA titles and leading the program to a team national championship in 1990. Lefty parlayed his college dominance into PGA Tour stardom, claiming 6 major championships. And here's to hoping he somehow wins that elusive US Open title, where he's tragically finished runner up 6 times. Arizona State's status in these rankings wouldn't be secure without their baseball program. Winners of 5 national titles and home to 2 of the sport's most famous power hitters in Barry Bonds and Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson originally committed to Arizona State on a football scholarship, but he took to baseball for good after his freshman season and never looked back. In the MLB, Jackson earned the nickname Mr. October due to his clutch heroics in the postseason. He finished his career with 5 World Series championships and 2 World Series MVP awards, receiving enshrinement to the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1993. And then there's the one and only Barry Bonds. Apologies to all the Babe Ruth truthers out there, but to me, Bonds is the greatest baseball player of all time. Bonds began flashing his unique blend of power and speed at Arizona State and later with the Pittsburgh Pirates before, let's say, bulking up and becoming the MLB's all-time home run leader with the San Francisco Giants. Bonds will likely never gain inclusion to the Baseball Hall of Fame as a result of using performance-enhancing drugs, but anyone who experienced the Bonds era knows they witnessed unparalleled greatness. Next up are the UCLA Bruins, one of the most balanced athletic programs in the country, underscored by their combined 123 team national championships. It's poetic that UCLA plays their baseball home games at Jackie Robinson Stadium. Before breaking the MLB color barrier, Robinson was a UCLA phenom, competing in 4 varsity sports: baseball, basketball, football, and track. Ironically, baseball was considered his weakest sport in college, but he eventually found his rhythm and forged a professional legacy that will never be forgotten. Next, we have today's first tennis player, Jimmy Connors. As a freshman at UCLA, Connors won the NCAA singles title before turning pro and embarking on a dominant career, where he won 8 major titles and spent a significant amount of time as the world's #1 player. And of course, we have to have representation from UCLA's historic basketball program and their record 11 national titles. And 5 of those titles were won by the program's all-time greats, Bill Walton and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem is arguably the most decorated collegiate athlete of all time. In his 3 seasons at UCLA, he won the national title, the National Player of the Year award, and the Final Four Most Outstanding Player in every single season. The only reason he didn't do it 4 times was the NCAA rule barring freshmen from playing on the varsity team during that point in time. In the NBA, nothing changed about Kareem's winning ways. He captured 6 championships and 6 MVP awards, retiring as the league's all-time scorer, a record recently surpassed by LeBron James. Bill Walton was well on his way to being Kareem's equal before injuries tragically hampered his professional career. At UCLA, Walton came up just short of Kareem's marks, tying his 3 straight National Player of the Year awards, but only winning 2 national titles. Come on, Bill. In the NBA, Walton led the Portland Trail Blazers to the 1977 title and won the MVP the following season. He later found success as a key role player with the mid-'80s Boston Celtics, winning another title in 1986. And despite his limited prime, Walton's peak was so impactful that he was named to the NBA's 50th and 75th anniversary teams. Coming in at number 3 are the Ohio State Buckeyes. While we're all familiar with their football tradition, it's important to recognize the diversity of talent that's passed through Columbus over the years. We'll first turn the clock back nearly a century to honor the transcendent Jesse Owens. While competing in a Big Ten track meet on May 25th of 1935, Owens set 4 world records in the 100-meter dash, long jump, 200-meter sprint, and 200-meter hurdles. A year later, he followed that up with an iconic performance in the 1936 Berlin Olympics, winning 4 gold medals and delivering a resounding rebuke to Adolf Hitler's ideology. Up next is Jack Nicklaus, another former Buckeye who's recognized amongst the greatest in his sports history. Nicholas became the first player to win the individual NCAA championship and U.S. amateur title in the same year. This would be a precursor to his professional career and his record setting 18 major championships. Ohio State's depth of athletic talent is perhaps best represented by John Havlicek being a relative afterthought in the school's hierarchy. Before playing an integral role on the Boston Celtics dynasty, Havlicek, alongside Jerry Lucas, led Ohio State to their only basketball national championship in 1960. We'll round out Ohio State's foursome by choosing from the football program's loaded roster of all-time greats, including Chris Carter, Eddie George, and two-time Heisman winner Archie Griffin. But to me, Orlando Pace stands out as the greatest player in school history. As an offensive lineman, Pace didn't play a flashy position, but he dominated in the trenches everywhere he played. In college, he paved the way for Eddie George's Heisman campaign and later anchored the NFL's greatest show on turf with the St. Louis Rams, protecting Kurt Warner and opening holes for Marshall Faulk en route to a Super Bowl title. At excruciatingly close runner-ups, we have the North Carolina Tar Heels, home to several athletes who could be considered amongst, if not the greatest in their respective sports. At the tip of the spear is the Jumpman himself, Michael Jordan, the most recognizable name in basketball. MJ's legend as a crunch-time killer began as a freshman at UNC when he sunk the game-winning shot in the 1982 national championship game against Georgetown. Over his 3 years in Chapel Hill, Jordan evolved into a superstar, culminating in the National Player of the Year award his junior year. In the NBA, Jordan set the standard that all past and future greats must now measure themselves against, leading the Chicago Bulls to 6 championships, including 2 separate three-peats, while never losing a final series and winning the Finals MVP in all of them. Next up is Lawrence Taylor, who started his college career as a defensive lineman before switching to linebacker, where he dominated with 16 sacks in his senior season, earning first-team All-American honors. The New York Giants drafted him second overall in the 1981 draft, and he wasted no time making an impact, winning NFL Defensive Player of the Year as a rookie. Taylor's peak came in 1986 when he recorded 20 and a half sacks, won the NFL MVP, one of 2 defensive players ever to win the award, and led the Giants to their first Super Bowl victory. LT finished his career with 2 rings and 10 straight All-Pro selections, cementing his status as the most feared defensive player to ever take the field. On the soccer field, the Tar Heels are represented by the one and only Mia Hamm, whose achievements in Chapel Hill dwarf both Michael Jordan and Lawrence Taylor combined. Hamm played 4 seasons at UNC and won the national championship every single season, losing only a single game of the 95 games she played in. After graduating from UNC, Hamm became the face of the U.S. national team in the late 90s and early 2000s, leading the U.S. to another World Cup title in 1999 and winning 2 Olympic gold medals. UNC's final representative is the multi-sport freak of nature, Julius Peppers. An All-American defensive end on the football field, Peppers was also contributing off the bench for UNC's basketball team, helping them reach the Final Four in 2000. Once it came time to make the big bucks as a professional, Peppers locked in on football, where he starred for his hometown Carolina Panthers. Peppers earned spots on the NFL's all-decade teams for both the 2000s and 2010s, retiring with 159 and a half sacks, the 4th most in NFL history. Holding the top spot are the Stanford Cardinal, whose 136 team national championships are more than any other Division I school. Stanford's athletic excellence spans across the sports world, resulting in a compilation of 4 all-time greats across 4 different sports. You don't need a long list to determine Tiger Woods' placement in the hierarchy of great golfers. Many consider Tiger to be the greatest ever, given his level of dominance over his peers during the peak of his career. At just 21 years old, Tiger won the 1997 Masters by a still-standing record 12 strokes. 3 years later, he obliterated the field at the U.S. Open, winning by 15 strokes, the largest margin of victory in major championship history. Tiger was the number one ranked golfer in the world for nearly a decade straight, and though injuries and personal issues slowed him down in the later stages of his career, he found redemption with the 2019 Masters victory. For all the national championships that Stanford has won, none have come on the football field. Just don't mistake that for a lack of talent when John Elway once graced their campus. Tragically, Elway never played in a bowl game during his Stanford career, victimized by a lack of talent around him and an overeager marching band you may have heard about. In the NFL, Elway would find much more success winning football games. Over his 16-year career with the Denver Broncos, he won the 1987 NFL MVP award and went to 9 Pro Bowls. Elway earned a reputation as a great clutch player, engineering the drive against Cleveland to win the 1987 AFC Championship. But he saved his greatest trick for last, ending his career with back-to-back Super Bowl victories. Where Stanford has had no such trouble winning national titles is in the swimming pool, collecting a combined 19 team national titles across their men's and women's programs. Amongst that success, the school has featured no greater individual force than Katie Ledecky. Ledecky has won 9 Olympic gold medals and has the world records in both the 800-meter and 1500-meter freestyle. Considering she just won both events at the 2024 Summer Olympics, who's to say Ledecky won't continue adding to her gold medal tally? Lastly, there's John McEnroe, remembered equally for his fiery temperament as he is his incredible skill. At Stanford, McEnroe won both individual and team national championships before embarking on a pro career that saw him claim 7 major singles titles. His epic rivalries with Bjorn Borg and Jimmy Connors defined an era of tennis, and he remains a familiar face in the broadcast booth to this day. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more content in the future, where I will continue diving into macro level topics that span the entirety of the sports world.